What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Misadventureland Games Show. I'm Bobby Shortle, and I'm here with Justin Townsend.
Hello.
How you doing today, Justin?
I'm doing okay. I love being stressed. It gives me
Hmm.
power. These quick turnarounds when we have to flip who's running the stream is always just the best. But we're here now. There are video games to talk about. I'm excited to talk about them. I know that everybody else is excited to talk about them. I know Mark is excited to talk about his next gen console experience.
Yeah,
So yeah, let's do it.
we have next gen consoles, so at least a bonus for us. Um, Bye, Megs. Thank you so much. Have a good day at work. Uh, Talk soon. So yeah, new consoles are out, and we're gonna be talking about them. We're talking about the next gen hype. Today. Justin.
Hit me.
Justin.
Hit me.
You have a P. Let's level set. You've got a PS5. I've
I
got
have
a
a
PS5
PS5.
and an Xbox Series X. So we have the full breadth between us of the consoles
Hmm.
to talk about. Also got a new iPhone. We want to talk about that too.
You're just rolling in
Um,
it.
just rolling in new technology. And we both have been able to put a good amount of time into the PS5. Mostly, to be fair, playing games that we could have played on the PS4. Most of our hours have been
Yep.
spent playing those games, but we have spent some time playing some PS5 games, and I put some, probably a couple of nights into the Series X before PS5 came out. So we can talk about everything. Justin, what do you want? We want to kick off talking about the boxes themselves.
I think that's the important thing that we should talk about.
Okay, so the Groon. I also can't wait for Bobby versus Demon Souls. Though, way my internet's going, I don't know when that's gonna happen. So we'll have to see. Might be recorded videos for that one. But anyway, um, let's talk about the boxes. The PlayStation 5. Start with the PlayStation 5 since we both have it, and then you can
Mm.
ask me questions about the Series X. If you have questions.
Alrighty.
First of all, now that you actually have it in your hands and in your entertainment center, how do you feel about the physical box itself?
I like it. It's weird looking. I will never forget watching that stream with you in July where they showed that thing and the both of us were like, "What the fuck?"
Mm.
But I mean, it's grown on me over time in pictures. But I actually think it's neat looking. It doesn't look like anything else, and I guess it has that going for it. But honestly, now that it's underneath my TV and I just like turn back to look at it, I don't even really notice it that much. Like, it's fine. It's different looking, and that's cool, but it's fine. It's totally fine.
I was not prepared, even after watching all the videos and seeing all the comparison shots and seeing all the memes, for just how big it actually was.
It's beefy.
Because it's a beefy boy. It's a beefy boy. Um, it Hello, Cody. Welcome, Luke Goblin. Welcome. Um, yeah. Move the cursor, Justin, because
Yeah.
there's like a cursor on my.
Sorry. I was typing to Cody. Put this right
um.
there.
So, I was not prepared for how big it actually was. It is a it is so tall. It is a very tall piece of kit. Especially because I had just 2 days before opened up the Series X, right? And the Series X is like essentially a cinder block of a gaming console. It is this, this big, thick, heavy rectangle that
I
you
like the
put
thick.
underneath your TV. Um, but it's densely packed, so it fits like pretty easily within like my entertainment center. The the PS5, I had to literally. So the PS5, if you were standing it up, Justin, the top of the PS5,
Yeah.
um, it's sticking out of my entertainment center, the top. Like, it's. it's ass in, top out. So I have to like I can barely like put anything in the USB ports. Because the USB ports are jutted up against like my the sides of my little like cubed entertainment
That's an
center.
unfortunate way to put a console.
It's very unfortunate. Thank God I don't have to put a disc in the thing because that would be nigh impossible
Yeah, we
to
both
do.
have the discless version.
Yeah. I could literally like lay it like catty corner from one side to the other,
That would
but I
probably be bad
don't
for it.
think that's what they
Yeah,
want you to do.
that's probably not what they want.
No. Um uh the real issue is like I could probably put it like I have also like the top of my entertainment center is like jutted up right like my TV is like m- less than an inch above where my entertainment center is like mounted on the wall. So I don't have room like on top of it to put anything on there. So I would have to put it. I have like a thing on the side I could put it on, but I have all like I have because of we're doing this. I have like wires run like an HDMI cable run that like goes like exactly that spot, so I can like unplug one and plug the other in, so I can go to my capture card. I've
Oh,
got
that's
a
nice.
Ethernet cable run from the like the pod I have in here over to there, which I probably don't necessarily need as much anymore because I think the Wi-Fi chip is way better.
It is
Um,
way better.
in this console, so I could probably unhook it, but it was inconvenient. Whereas the Xbox, literally, Justin, I literally unplugged the HDMI cable from the back of my Xbox One S, unplugged the power cable from the back of the Xbox One S, and just put like the Xbox Series X in and
In its
plugged both those
place.
things in, and it just worked. So that was nice and easy. Um,
Nice.
Good one, Mark. It's time to think outside the box for the entertainment center. I also need it for a lot of storage. So that's the other problem. But um, Cody says I can't tell if I haven't seen Justin in a while or he just looks a million times different.
You saw me 2 weeks ago. We did a podcast 2 weeks ago.
Secret, Cody's secret. He didn't watch that podcast. Um, he
Well,
looks
that's
the
your
same
damn
to
fault.
me.
I'm still just as handsome.
He looks the same to me. Anyway, uh, so that's the physical boxes themselves. Justin, how do you feel about the PS5's UI?
The UI is something. It's I I like parts of it a lot, and other parts of it I am a little bit frustrated with. Uh, we have a question about what we would like to change or what our frustrations are that we'll get into later. But I
Hmm.
think it's a nice looking UI. It's snappy. It's responsive. I can see how much system storage I'm running out of in real time instead of having to wait for it to generate, which is nice. But
Hmm.
I think the store is neat. I like how it's embedded in the actual UI instead of opening an app. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's fine. Like you and I have this like weird thing with UIs. It's like, ooh, I see the box, but show me the UI. That's what I'm really interested in. And I think it's fine. I think it needs to evolve a little bit over time, which I'm sure that it will.
Yeah.
Because it is parts of it are just the PS4 UI with a new coat of paint slapped over it and
Hmm.
some fancy screens on top. But when you start digging down, it's very reminiscent to some of the PS4 UI. But yeah, some things have to change, but I overall like the look and the feel. I'm getting used to it. I like a lot of the
Yeah, I
sounds.
mean, there are things that I like about it and things that I don't as far as the UI goes. I think that I mean, for both consoles, I think the snappiness is really great. You know, like when I'm playing Call of Duty now, it doesn't like when I hit the PS button, it doesn't like destroy my system to go out to the the other
Oh, I haven't tried that yet. That's the real
to,
test.
yeah, go back out to the menu. I think that in I think in service of trying to I think condense like that big bar of PS4 options, like above, the that was on the PS4 that was above your game library. Then now it's like this game bar that pops up below when you hit the PS button. I think they've made things a little bit more obtuse.
It's
I
fair.
think that like in order to look at your friends list, you have to like click in. It's like multiple button presses deep now in that like game stack or whatever they call it,
Game Center or Game
Game Center,
Bar.
whatever it's called. And the same thing with parties. It's like contained within that thing. And I wish that there was an option. to spread those things out, because there is an option when you hit like options when you're in the game bar area. It's like, oh, you can customize what you have on here, and I can see the party icon on there, but it's grayed out. It won't let me pick it as an option to put like into the game bar, which I don't understand like at all. Um, and the other part of it is, so that's a really my biggest issue is clicking down into things. Like it's a little inconvenient. It's also that way with like some of the stuff is just like I'm just doing certain things a certain way on the PS4, and you can't do that stuff on the PS5, right? So when you hold down the PS button now, it just drops you into like it brings you back to the main like screen of the UI, instead of bringing up like that short menu that's like, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to like turn your console off? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Um, for that you have to scroll over to the power thing and then do that. Just like things that are slightly less intuitive, I feel like,
Totally.
than the PS4 was. Um, trophies are the same thing. Like you have to like
God.
you have to dig in. Like for me, it seems I haven't been able to find a full trophy list unless I click on I scroll over to the icon of the game in my like library bar, and then there'll be a little icon that pops up on the side that says like, oh, view all trophy for this one game.
I couldn't find them, so I literally had to click on a trophy that I got, and it said then view trophies for this game. But
Yeah,
I couldn't figure out where my actual trophies were.
right.
I might have
So
been
like
too tired looking for it, but it wasn't easy to find.
no, so stuff like that I just feel like is I I feel like you mentioned something, Justin. You and I were talking about like the video apps that are on the console, right? Like PS4, PS5 has like 6 or 7 video apps, and a lot of them are ones that you would, you would want, that you would use, right? But they don't have stuff like HBO Max was on PS4. It's not on PS5. Stuff like that is just
It's
it's like
baffling.
it's just weird. Like, why are we starting back over? Oh, Andy is here. Welcome, Andy. Why are we starting back over with these elements? Why are we taking away elements just to add them back in? I don't understand why that is. So for that stuff to me is like disappointing, just on a feature set level. Especially because, like you said, Justin, as different as it looks kind of on the surface, it is very much the PS4 like system architecture and system UI, just with like a fresh coat of paint kind of like
Yeah.
slapped on top of it. So that stuff I don't love. I'm sure some of it will become more second nature once we use the console a lot, but to me a good UI is one that the things that you want to do are somewhat intuitive, right? It's like, okay, like I want to do this. So, oh, I think probably I should do this. And then usually that's the right answer,
Yeah.
and when that's not the right answer, it's kind of frustrating. And I think, I think, talking about the Xbox really quickly about their UI, it's the same UI that's in the Xbox One right now. It's really, really fast, really, really, really fast. Um, it's not my favorite UI in the world, but it works really well, and they've implemented enough changes over time that now I think it functions very well. Like you don't have to go through multiple steps to find all your games. You don't. They now have like when you hit the Xbox button, you not only have like the standard options you had originally, but there's like a bar at the bottom now that gives you like all the other options you'd want, sort of the same as you do when used to hold down the PS button. So I love that, and also it's the nice thing about the UI transferring over is you don't lose any features, right? There's no features lost between the Xbox One and the
Yeah.
Xbox Series X
And
at
it's
all.
snappy. I mean,
It's very snappy.
that's the main thing that I take away from these consoles so far is they're snappy.
Very snappy.
UI, and then we can talk about the way they load into games and loading screens and whatnot, but the speed of the consoles is definitely noticeable.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the like I was saying, it's just from a usability standpoint, the two consoles couldn't take a more different approach to how they handle like backwards compatible, um, or games that are on both consoles, I should say. like PS4, PS5, and Xbox One, Xbox Series X. Xbox Series X, literally, if there is an Xbox Series X version of the game, it's smart delivery takes over, and it's like, this is the version of the game that you're gonna play. Like you don't have the option to download like the other version of the game. You can't keep it run. It just replace it. Just you open it and it goes, hey, like there's an update for this game. We're gonna make it better, and then you're like, okay, and you just do it. Whereas on the PS5, I literally had to stop the console from downloading both versions of Miles Morales and Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. It was like, oh, you want to download? So I'm going to download both versions of both games. And I was like, why the
Why?
fuck would you do this?
Why would they why? I like when they talked about smart delivery, I was like, that's neat, but like not really necessary, but neat. And now I see it's like, oh no, you could have this was easy to mess up apparently because Sony messed it
Yeah.
up.
Hmm.
Like, and I get why, like, maybe you want to look at the PS4 version for some reason if you're a games journalist, or you want to roll back maybe and get a. No, you see, you can't even do that because it's like I was gonna say, like maybe get a patch. I guess you could download the PS4 version and like not have a patch go on somehow. Maybe I'm not sure, but yeah, smart delivery just is a much smarter idea and so much more consumer friendly because yeah, I also had to stop both versions of those games from downloading. And you might be on the PS5 and have deleted the wrong one and you're playing a PS4 version of a PS5 game.
Yeah.
It's easy
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. And Call of Duty specifically keeps doing this weird thing where like it'll have like when I turn the system back on, it'll have like the download arrow next to Call of Duty, and I'll scroll over to it and it'll say download, and I'm like, and I have to. So basically, on the screen there is like there's a big play button when you scroll over something, and next to it is like the little like three dots that says like, oh, there are more options here. And if you click on that button, it lists all the versions of the game. So it'll have like the beta and the alpha if you were part of the beta and alpha, and it will also have the PS4 version and the PS5 version. Whatever version you have selected at the time won't be on that list because obviously it's the one that's ready to play. So I'll click on that three buttons and the PS5 version will be there because for some reason it is defaulting to the PS4 version of the game for my system, saying like, "Oh, this is the one you want to play, right?"
It's a bit like again, we don't know what COVID did to the studios trying to or Sony trying to make this thing. But yeah, it needs some ironing out. There's some kinks in there that definitely need ironing out. But I think
Yes.
the overall layout of the UI is an improvement, and I didn't think there could be an improvement of it. I like it.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. And again, I'm kind of going. This kind of is answering kind of Meg's
Yeah.
question when she asked on Discord. She asked, what are the things that could be better, about the console, things that we want to change. And it's most of my qualms are really in this area in the PS5, especially particularly is like the UI stuff. And we're talking about the UI, so I want kind of wanted to get that stuff out there. Um, but yeah, so that's the kind of stuff, and I don't want to act like I'm overly negative on the console because I'm really really not. But I just those are things that have kind of been, I guess, a little bothersome to me. One of the cool things, though, I will say just before we go, is that just think about Justin 6 7 years ago when PS4 and Xbox One came out, and like if you had friends or anything that weren't ready to take that leap, or their consoles were taking a long time to arrive via shipping, let's say, um, and you wanted to play games, you were sort of completely cut off, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you had a PS3 and I had a PS4, we couldn't be in a party together. We couldn't talk together. We couldn't play the same game with each other, you know? Um, Now fast forward to now, and you and me are and Cody are in a party with, well, we have PS5s, and we're in a party with Mark and Andy who don't have their PS5s. But the party system works totally fine, and we're also playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare, we're playing Apex Legends or whatever these games, and it's something that is great that it's there, and I feel like we were kind of, before these came out, we kind of were like, this stuff better be here. but in practice, it's very cool to be able to keep sort of like our group together, even though we're not playing on the same console.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about let's talk about the controller on the PS5.
I think if we're gonna talk about the controller, I think we have to talk about Astrobot with it.
Yeah, let's talk about it because Astrobot is essentially like a game slash tech demo for that controller. It uses like every part of the controller, and to I think great effect. So, Justin, what do you think of the controller? And I mean, you can bring in your ideas about Astrobot as well when you're talking about the different features of the controller as well.
So, as you had mentioned earlier, the first night I had my PS5, I played Apex Legends all night.
Hmm.
And the second night I had my PS5, I only played Apex Legends. And I thought the controller was fine. If it wasn't used to the tension of the sticks. It feels good. It feels solid. I ended up getting my controller like 3 weeks ago. So
Hmm.
I've been sitting here holding it, wishing I could play with it. But yeah, like I've been. I think it feels good. It feels solid. The weight. It feels like it has good weight distribution. Um, and then when I was playing, I was like, yeah, it feels good. Like, the rumble feels like rumble. I know everyone was hyping up the way that this thing has this like special, ability to let out cool rumbles in certain types of games, but in Apex Legends, I really wasn't feeling it. Uh, and then I played Astrobot, and everything changed. So the controller has, what are they calling it? Adaptive rumble, or
I don't know, but you said "cool rumbles," which is like the greatest phrase I've ever heard.
I'm known for good phrasing.
Got those
So
cool rumbles,
those
baby.
cool rumbles. Anyway, so normally with rumble, the controller just rumbles in your hands,
Mhm.
and Nintendo was trying to do HD rumble when the Switch came out, and where you'd be able to really feel like if you were like grabbing the Switch and and moving the Switch like left or right, and they would say like there was marbles inside of that Joy-Con, you would be able to count how many marbles there were by the way that it was rumbling. That was like a neat little idea, but not really taken anywhere. So Sony was like, well, we could do something with that. We can run with it. So the controller itself has these cool rumbles in it that will really change the way the controller feels. And it's almost like one of these things that you have to feel to believe. You're like, nah, it's just gonna be rumble. But when you have when you're playing Astro's Playroom, immediately off the title screen, the little dude runs across the words Astro's Playroom. And as he's doing that, he's jumping from letter to letter, and there's a microphone in the controller, so there's sounds coming out of it, but it's like a good sound. It's not like the PS4 microphone, which was one of the worst microphones I've ever heard in a controller. It
Oh, in
was
the control, the one in the
yeah,
controller
the
you're
one in
talking
the
about? Yeah,
controller
yeah.
that was just terrible. Oh my god, I muted it for every game. But with this, it's got like this nice, clear little sound, the little beeps and boops that he's making, and as he's jumping from letter to letter, you feel the metal in your hands as he's hitting it. It's like really hard to describe. But then you
Yeah.
immediately start the game, and it puts this like DualSense controller built up on the screen, and as it's building up with these voxels, you feel it rising through the controller, and you're like, well, that's really cool. The triggers have this forced feedback, and so like they're like, okay, plus left trigger, right trigger, and it's like stopping your finger from doing it until you have to give
Mhm.
it like a good amount of oomph to push it down.
Yeah.
You start the game and you're on a beach level. And so what I'll say about it is every level in that game, and we'll talk about the game in a second, but every level in that game has you on like kind of like a different surface. You could be on sand, you could be on snow, you could be on ice, you could be on metal, you could be on wood. And the feeling of walking that character over those surfaces all feel different. I'll take ice as the example. So with ice, he's ice skating on the ice. And there is just this very low line, constant, almost like noise. If you could just take like imagine the sounds uh of an ice skater skating on ice. You know what that sounds like when the skate is just sliding along the ice. But imagine that in almost like just a very low rumble, just
Mhm.
constant. It's not like it's shaking your hands, but the controller is vibrating in a way that you can feel the sounds. And
Yeah.
it is fucking awesome. Uh, And so yeah, I say cool rumbles, but like it's almost like I don't know how to describe it. Like how do you describe the feeling of sands or grit
Right.
or the hollowness of a piece of metal? Like it's very hard to describe the way the controller reacts to it. But when you feel it in your hands, you're like, no, this feels right. Like
Mhm.
if the sand is blowing up in your face, in one part of the game, the controller is constantly making it feel like there's like grit happening in it,
Right.
and it's phenomenal. And I don't know if other games will implement it in this way, but Sony has shown the path. Like, do this, and people will appreciate it. And I could picture most Sony first party games doing it, but I'm hopeful that third parties get on board because going back to a DualShock 4 later felt like this archaic thing. It's like, "Gah, get this filth out
Yeah.
of my hands."
Yeah, I mean, Miles Morales takes some advantage of it for sure, but not. I mean, obviously, y- y- Astro's Playroom is like I said, almost like a tech demo for for the controller. So it uses like even like the touchpad and the gyroscope in it, which is like that's the stuff where as wonderful as Astro's Playroom is, I could definitely do without the like, oh, like tilt the controller right to make him go right stuff. I'm like, just let me use the stick. Like I don't need to tilt the controller. Like it's not 2007 anymore. Like I get it. I know that you've got move motion controls in your controller. I understand. I don't need to do it anymore. you know? Um but uh but other than that, like I think everything about like what you're saying is like the rain was one of the time that it really like
Yeah, the rain felt
uh
incredible.
come on to me because it was like this just like this steady like patter of rain on like a force vibration that felt like okay, like it felt like rain. It's very tough, like just it's very tough to explain it with words. It's something you kind of
So
have to feel because
it
everything we're
almo
gonna say is gonna sound like cheesy or weird or like kind of not real, but the controller is special. There's a specialness to the controller.
so, like, with the rain, and I don't know if it was this way. I could be totally wrong, but, like, thinking back on it, it felt like every time the rain would hit the controller, like, different parts of the controller, very small parts of it, like the size of raindrops were vibrating. And
Yeah,
it
no,
may not have been
we're
that way, but, like, my brain tricked me into thinking that it was.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. It felt that way when you were holding it, and
yeah.
also there's like this little bit of sound of the rain coming out, stuff like that.
Like,
So,
there's this one part with springs, right? And they're like,
mhm,
you get loaded into this thing with springs, and like you can tilt the controller left or right, but as it's doing it, the microphone is making like this kind of like creaky, springing noise. And it's also like the vibration is making it seem like you are like kind of stretching and closing a slinky.
mhm,
It was really cool. And like Astro's Playroom as a game itself is awesome. It's not long. It's this little platformer. It took me what 4 to 5 hours to platinum. Same thing for you, I think, Bobby.
yeah, yeah, about that
But
much long, but
it's
long, yeah,
a love letter to PlayStation. And
yeah,
so if you've played what was it, Astrobot Rescue Mission or Rescue
mhm,
whatever on VR, same characters in it, but just a very good fun platformer where you are constantly being slapped in the face with the history of PlayStation. And so you're finding
yeah,
artifacts which are like anywhere from the PS3 to the Resistance VR game gun. Like just little
yeah,
neat trinkets from Sony's history. And then all the like, you'll see these dudes running around with video cameras, like little Astrobot dudes, and they're always tailing somebody who's making some sort of reference to a game in PlayStation's history. And there were a couple that were like really cool. Like, yeah, I'm going to expect to see Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Aloy
But
shot me in the face, Justin. I stood
I
next
didn't
to her for too long, and she shot her little arrow right in my face.
That's pretty cool. But there were a couple other ones where I had to really think about what I was seeing. There were some deep cuts in there, and there was one that Bobby was like, "Man, there is one that you're going to absolutely love." And I was like, "Is it this one?" He's like, "No, it's not this one." I'm like, "This one? No, it's not this one." And then I finally came across it, and I was like, "I think this is the one he's talking about." So I'm like, "What do you think that this is?" And he told me, and I was like, "Yep, that's 100%." And I'm not gonna spoil it because it's actually cool seeing those things.
Mhm,
But yeah, like for a tech demo about showing you what all the cool stuff the controller can do,
mhm.
I think it bypasses that by far and just becomes a cool video game that I would love to see more of.
It
I wish
is.
it was longer.
It's like the only reason I disagree about being longer is that I feel like I do want like a full length Astro Bot like platformer, but I think that I want one that's not necessarily built all on sort of like the gimmick of the controller, right? Because I don't want to I didn't want like 3 times the springy,
Yeah.
tilty stuff or whatever, you know, or more like I like the monkey like climbing one is cool.
That was my least favorite
Um,
one.
but that the spring one was my least favorite
Oh,
one.
I like the
The
spring
monkey
one.
climbing one was fine. Like once I understood how to do it, 'cause at first I was like, okay, I keep hitting the triggers, but he's not reaching his hand any higher. And on the little video, they show like somebody like moving the controller, and I thought they were just doing it to show like where to click which like trigger to click. And I was like, and then when I realized you have to like move the controller back and forth, I was like, oh,
So
okay.
this is actually a good time to talk about the other thing that Sony is implementing here for at least Plus members is their hint system. Uh,
Yeah, hint system. Yeah.
so for I'm gonna get. I mean, they're saying other games are gonna have this, but I'm assuming for it's just gonna be first party to start. But if you're hunting trophies or you're looking for a collectible that you can't find, especially in this, we're just gonna take Astro. There was like you would hit the PS button and it would take you immediately to that little bar and it would be like, "Oh, you're in this level. You're at 78% completion on this level." And then you would click that and it would show you're missing one collectible and one artifact. And if you
Hmm.
can't find them, you click on that and a little video will show you exactly where it is.
Yeah.
So like if you're trophy hunting like I am most of the time, if I couldn't find a collectible, I would just be like, okay, let me hit pause. Let me get my phone out. Let me type in the name of the level on YouTube and like collectible list. And then I have to scrub through and try and find like, where is this collectible I can't find?
Hmm.
But on here, it was literally 2 button presses away and a
Yeah.
short little 10-second video that was like, oh, okay, I know exactly where this is.
Yeah.
And I think that's really awesome. And that's another thing that I hope third parties will implement. But the thing is, like, the difficult thing is those features are not on the Xbox. So is a third party developer, is Ubisoft going to be like, well, we're going to take the time to do this extra work for the PlayStation version of the game that we're not doing for the Xbox version of the game? I don't
Yeah.
know. I hope so, because I think those things are really cool, but it remains to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, again, the hint system for Astrobot worked really great. I have not tried it for any other game yet. Not even the Sony first party like Miles Morales or anything. So I don't know how well they work in the other ones, but for Astro Playroom, they were great.
Yeah. It shows the potential. The potential is there
Yeah,
for
it
that to
definitely
be
shows
a really
potential.
helpful system.
It's all going to depend, like you said, on is Ubisoft going to spend the sort of like production time to have one of their people, maybe Kelsey,
Maybe
go
Kelsey.
through and find and record like little clips of them like showing how to complete tasks or whatever. I do wish I'll say this. I do wish that there are some hidden trophies in Astrobot, and you can obviously go into the trophies and click 2 buttons and see what the trophies are, but there aren't any hints for those trophies since you can't like see them. Like they
Yeah.
don't appear, they don't surface them. And I wish there were also, because especially some of those, I wish there were especially like there was one where I was like, I don't understand what this means. Like when I read that, like I read the description of it, and then I had to go look up like what does this mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, it was really good. Um, it's not the best showpiece for like obviously the power of the console as far as like the visual power. It's a very nice looking 3D platformer,
Good
but
good load times though.
very good load times, very very good load times. And it's like not a particularly hard game, but there are times where it's like a one hit and you're dead situation. So you're probably gonna die a few times, and so it's nice that there is um
You're back in there right
quick load
away.
times. Like I had problems like the final boss for whatever reason. I just had like issues like when I was playing it, so I died a bunch of times. Um, uh, and then the time I did it like super easily, like I didn't even get hit, but like just took a lot of ramp up to it, and so it was nice to have they're very very fast load times. It's also nice because you could like when you're going for the trophies, you can literally just like, okay, I got the last puzzle piece. Like let me just like open the map up and teleport to like this other stage, and you're there in a second or whatever, which is really really cool. The same honestly goes for Miles Morales, which it is pretty astounding from when you hit like you hit the X button on play on Miles Morales, how fast you're in like to the actual game.
It's
Like
crazy.
probably a second for like the initial like like the splash screen to come up where Miles is like on the subway and it says like hit X to start or whatever. But from when I hit like go on that, it's maybe 2 to 4 seconds to load into the game, which is just insane. It's just insanely fast. Um, and that game is gorgeous. A really, really gorgeous game. Justin, have you been playing on performance mode or visuals mode?
I've been playing on fidelity, so visuals.
Visual. So you turned off all the ray tracing and stuff.
No, no, no. Ray tracing comes with visuals. It's performance that kills the ray tracing.
Oh, sorry. Fidelity and performance. You're right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I haven't tried it in 60 frames a second. I saw the videos for it in 60 frames a second, and I think it looks fantastic.
yeah.
But that ray tracing is something else. And Spider-Man is a game that, I mean, you're swinging around. It looks great. I'll probably switch to it for a little bit, but in the beginning of the game, I really just wanted to like soak in those visuals. So they'll do, I think fidelity mode is what, locked 30 with ray
Yeah.
tracing.
With
And
all ray tracing and all like the bells and whistles
yeah,
graphically turned on,
graphically. And then
and native 4K as well, and then performances. Go ahead, Justin.
is just 60 frames a second, and they kill the ray tracing. Things
Yeah,
still look nice, but you're not going to get the reflections of yourself in the in the mirror or in the windows. Like I took a screenshot yesterday of Miles like upside down in the city, and part of his suit is metallic,
hmm
and I could see the reflection of what was underneath me in his suit.
right.
Like
Yeah,
that's nice. That looks real
yes.
good.
hmm I think that the performance mode does like the like the checkerboard like upscale thing. I think from like either 1440 or 1080 up to 4K. So you're obviously also not getting as high a fidelity image, I believe. Anyway, I could be wrong about that. And Dave Crockett actually asked in our Discord. This is more of on the PS5, but thoughts on having the option to choose between performance and cinematic resolution modes. Typically, I want 60 frames per second, but I find myself obsessively switching back and forth when I don't. Um, to where I don't. Sorry. Um, to where I don't even want to see the option. Okay, so it's like tweaking the part of his brain that won't let him like rest on one mode or the other. Um, they had modes like this on PS4 Pro, right? And I think on the Xbox One X as well. Before this generation, but obviously I think we're talking about a whole other leap now as far as like graphical effects and fidelity. So so Justin, how do you feel about the two modes, and which one do you think you'd normally sort of like go for?
It depends on the game, I think.
hmm
God of War on the PS4 was one of the only games that had this type of mode, and I just stuck with resolution. I thought it was a little bit jarring going to 60 frames a second, and it depends. Like some of these are going to probably be like, oh, you could probably get 120 eventually. Some games, or you could have 60 depending, and like 60 is
hmm
enough for me. I'll probably lean visuals because I'm just a sucker for like a very good looking game, and like I'm very used to playing on 30 frames a second in just about everything. So I'm not gonna have to go there for certain games. A shooter, I'll probably go for 60 frames a second over something maybe like Spider-Man, where it's so fast and fluid moving anyway that 60 frames a second looks great, but I want the rest of that experience more.
hmm
Yeah, so I'm a sucker for visual stuff. So like if ray tracing is going to be taken off, I'll probably keep ray tracing on because I really love the way that that looks.
Mark says FPS me pops. um I think for me, like you said, it's game dependent. I think most shooters are gonna kind of like force you into a 60 frames per second mode. I don't think, at least in the multiplayer side, I don't think there's gonna be much of an option. Like I don't think there's gonna be an option to play Black Ops Cold War multiplayer in 30 frames a second. I
Nor
think
should
that's
you
like
want to at this point.
no, you wouldn't want to, but I'm saying like across the board, I think that's going to be flat. I think for me, like with Spider-Man, I think while I play the story, I'm gonna keep it in like the 30 frames per second, like all the bells and whistles on mode. And then I think at oh boy, we got some bots in the chat. Whoa, we got a lot of bots in the chat. Got a lot of bots going on.
Mark's taking care
Thank
of
you
it.
very much, Mark. Mark's on it like this. Um, on it like this. Thank you, Mark. But once I finish the story in Miles Morales, and then I'm on the part where I'm mopping up like the other stuff, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
then
put
I
on
can
the
see
60
it.
frame per second mode
Yeah,
and just like see
totally.
it because it does look great. I watched Dan Reichert stream it and he switched to 60 frames per second. I was like, whoa, like this
Yeah,
is
there's a
nuts.
there's a noticeable difference,
Yeah.
but I want that I want that experience. I want to I want to see myself climbing around cuz like right now I'm in the mode where it's like that's right, swinging around the city feels great. Like
Hmm.
it feels so good to swing around as Miles and yeah, it's only been like what 2 years since Spider-Man came out, but you kind of forget how good it feels. So yeah, like for me it just the jumping around the buildings and seeing that reflection and seeing the light, the way the light shines off everything is just it's too good to turn off right now. And you're right, probably for platinum cleanup, I'll put it on 60 frames a second and go from there.
Mark says I want my frame rate to be as smooth as a baby's bottom, and for the most part, I do agree with you, Mark. But for a game like Spider-Man, and especially I think especially right now that we have these new boxes, like I want to see all of like the flash and the big stuff, and that's why I'm keeping on 30 frames. Dave says, but will still obsess over the modes, and I wish they just took away the option. I mean, I like that there's the option because I
Yeah.
like playing so much on PC and stuff. I liked being able to like tune the experience a little bit. um, it's crazy because we're talking about PlayStation right now, but I got that Bright Memory game on Xbox. Um,
How is that?
it was like $6 or something. It's fine. Like it's cool. But when you open up the menu and you go to graphics, it's literally just a PC graphics menu. Like it's like turn ambient occlusion on and off. Like how much anti-aliasing do you want? Like do you want high, medium, or low textures? Like that kind of stuff. You can turn VSync on and off. Like
That's
in it,
something.
it's crazy that they just basically copied it over. Um, but like I said, Crockett, they've been doing like this sort of like performance visuals thing um on the PS4 Pro for a while now. So I think it's going to stick around because I think they know people want it. I'm curious. I think the only way it doesn't stick around is in a couple of years when everything is just like PS5 or whatever, like, and they're not making PS4 versions of games anymore. Do we still get like performance versus, fidelity?
Yeah, you hope that they can
Because
kind of wrap it all up into one thing.
you would hope, but I mean, I also like think it's not a bad idea to give people a choice to be like, hey, like we can turn all the effects on and stuff, and it's gonna look really cool. And if you like that, like you, Justin, like you were saying, like do that, but if you really like frame rate, if you really like a high frame rate, go do a high frame rate. It's gonna look a little bit worse, but man, is it gonna move nicely?
Well, we may
Um,
actually have to wait until PS5 Pro before
it's
being able
true.
to get 60 frames a second with ray tracing,
um, um,
depending on the game, of course.
Yeah. So I mean, I've only played probably like 90 minutes of Miles so far, so I can't speak too much. But again, and we don't want to go too much into it because we don't want to spoil it for anybody. It just came out, and not everybody has PS5 yet, or isn't playing on or they can play. You can play it on PS4, but I'm betting a lot of people are waiting to play it on PS5. So um, too much. For me, I just know it looks fantastic and it feels great so far. And the little story bits that I have gotten have been really nice, just like that first game.
Yeah,
That's kind of where I am with it. So
maybe 3 or 4 hours into it, and it's not a long game. It's only
yeah.
supposedly story only take you like 10 hours or something like that. But it's good. It's real good, and I love Insomniac. I think Insomniac is might be one of my favorites. It's definitely one of my favorite studios. It might be my favorite studio.
That's a
I
crazy thing to say.
I really like their games.
A crazy thing to say. Um, Green asks if there is a PS5 Pro, when do you think it will be released? I am not sold on the fact that there will be a PS5 Pro. Here's the only reason I'm saying that, because when the PS4 came out, it had a lot of technology in it that was already dated, right? And they kind of locked the specs of that box right before like big changes in like memory throughput and like CPU advances and GPU advances and hard drive advances, and it felt like something that needed to be, that need, if it was going to have a 7 year lifespan, needed to be sort of um updated and refreshed. And I don't know right now, at least. And what they've been talking about, these boxes, they have like really, almost cutting edge tech inside of them, and I feel like they tried to future proof them a little bit more than like they did 6 or 7 years ago. um if it happens, I'm thinking it doesn't happen until way late in the generation, but that's just me. Justin, what do you think?
I think both console makers realize like, hey, if we release a middle generation console upgrade, people will buy them. So I say we see one in about 3, 4 years.
It's
And then,
possible. It's very possible.
I mean, this thing is pretty like it is very beefy. It's powerful. So I don't think we'll ever see an 8 year window like we did on the PS3 and the 360, where like it was an extremely long time before the next set of consoles came out.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no.
But I do think that they realize there's money to be made on people who want to upgrade. Like it's
Yes.
there, and we can still sell those people a console and then phase out the PS4, and everyone will have migrated to a PS5, and then we could still offer those people this still relatively new box that's not underpowered, but we could offer more power in other places for people who are looking for it, where maybe we do get to be able to have performance mode and fidelity mode together, and it's like there's your option.
Hmm.
So yeah, I definitely think that that's probably just the way that it's going to be now, and they're like sort of adopting the phone model where we're gonna get 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5 going forward. I could definitely see that.
I think too, and sort of pivoting over to the Xbox side of things, the reason why some of the stuff Xbox is doing is so smart is because they kind of have a model in place now that can more easily adapt to what you're talking about, Justin, right? With the kind of phone like payment plan thing that they have adopted, for both of their boxes, much like I think they did at the end of the Xbox One generation. I think there's going to be upgrade paths for those more powerful consoles,
Totally.
if they happen, which I think is a very smart thing for them to do. And I think by doing that, they give themselves a way to do it, and not feel so much like they're screwing people over or whatever. And speaking of the Xbox, I think that the machine itself is extremely impressive. And I will say also, mentioning before we mentioned the ease of sort of the smart delivery thing, one of the other great things about the Xbox, and I remember when the Xbox One came out, people were kind of um, not sure about this, like a lot of things about the Xbox One. But do you remember when they announced it, like, you're never gonna have to worry about where your saves are ever again? Like, we're
Yeah.
just gonna you're never even gonna see them. Like, we're gonna upload them and put them in the cloud and download when they need to be there, and we'll offload them and download them as we need to. And people were kind of like up in arms about it, like, I want to be able to do with my saves what I want to do with my saves, or all that kind of business or whatever. Um, I will tell you that transferring over console generations made that choice they made 7, 8 years ago, made the transfer over to this new console super easy. I didn't have to do anything. Like,
That's
I
nice.
turned it on. Like, that included all the settings too, which is another thing that Sony, like, I just don't understand, like, why they didn't have these things in place like before the new console launch. But the Xbox, literally, like, I got my phone, I it opened, the console came up, and it was like, oh, hey, like, if you have this app on your phone, like, open it up and sign into your account, and your Xbox account, and put this number in, just like when you link your shit up to anything, on a phone, or to a service you're already part of. Just like like when you sign to Netflix, and it's like, hey, go to netflix.com/whatever and put in this 8-digit code. It was like the same thing. You put that code in, hit go, and it went, okay, cool. Just give us a minute. We're gonna download your settings. And it like signed me in on the Xbox Series X. It downloaded all of my settings, all of my saves, and was just done. Like
That's nice.
that was it. It was just there and done and ready to go. I didn't have to like do like a like hour, a 30, 45 minute, hour long like system transfer over Wi-Fi, or decide not to do that and just download saves individually. Like it was just like it was just there,
It took
you
me an
know?
hour to download my saves.
Yeah. Um
There is one thing that we
uh
have to talk about with the boxes that we haven't yet, especially with the PlayStation.
okay.
Storage.
Oh yes, storage. Yes.
Storage is a problem with the PlayStation 5. I have 10 gigabytes left.
That's not a lot of gigabytes,
That's
Justin.
not a lot of gigabytes. Last night I was like, well, I'm going to play Cold War after I'm done with Miles because I'm going to blow through the campaign and delete it from my hard drive.
Hmm.
I did not have Cold War installed on my hard drive when I was looking at it. I didn't have
Oh
the
boy.
campaign installed. So I was like, let me install the campaign. And it was like, you have 10 gigs left. So I'm going to list the games that are currently on my hard drive. I have Cold War, the entirety of Cold War. I'm going to just say the entirety of all these games. Cold War, Warzone, Cold War, Warzone, Apex, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Spelunky, Risk of Rain 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remake, Bugsnax. Anything else? I feel like I'm missing one.
Astro.
Astro's Playroom. That's it. That gives
I
me
mean,
10.
10. I mean, look, the storage is terrible. 10 games is not. Probably don't need more than 10 games installed right now.
True.
um,
I mean,
uh,
oh, Destiny. Andy's right. Destiny's the one that I was missing.
oh, okay, Destiny.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, the Xbox isn't like
You
crazy
get
more, but
you
there's
get
like 200
200
more
more
gigs
gigs.
available. Also, the Xbox lets you, so you can't play Xbox Series X or Series S games off of an external hard drive, but you can transfer them there as like cold storage. Um, Peach says Justin is just being selfish and wants it all. This is true. Um,
When you play a lot of video games, you would like them all installed on your
it's true.
hard drive.
Agreed. I mean, in some of those games, Justin, you could buy an external hard drive for the PS4 games and put them on it and play them off of there. But with Xbox Series X, you can at least move Series X games onto that drive and use them as cold storage. And for that way, it's at least you don't have to wait for them to download again. You can just transfer them back and forth. But yeah, the PlayStation, especially bad for me because on my PlayStation 4, I had a external hard drive hooked up to it, which was like it's like 4 terabytes, and I had everything on that drive, so I could play everything off of it. I could do everything off of it. Um, uh, and it was great. And I can similarly do that with still with all the PS4 games, but there's been some weird stuff happening with like external hard drives in the PS5 apparently, where it's like rebuilding the drive even if it doesn't get shut down improperly or something. So
And
I just
they
have it
have
unplugged
yeah.
until I have it unplugged until I'm like, oh, I want to play this PS4 game, and then I can plug it in and do it if I want to do it. But yeah, and right now there's no option to expand your storage on the PS5. So
It's
that's the other
crazy.
part of it that's a bummer.
I'm really
Um,
surprised they didn't have the list. I mean, they're making it so you could buy third-party um, SSD
NVMe
drive,
drives.
yeah, NVMe drives,
Yeah.
but they haven't come out with the compatible list yet, which is
No.
crazy because I would 100% be buying one right now.
Absolutely. Me too. The Xbox Series X and S, you can buy that like $200 expansion card or whatever, which is expensive. Obviously, it kind of fits within the pricing of what that memory goes for, like just
Currently,
normally right
yeah.
now. So it's not a crazy overpriced thing, even though it sounds like it's really intense. And that is essentially like sticking in like a second internal hard drive, and it just works, which is cool. But uh, speaking of stuff on the Xbox Series X, the thing of the Series X is right now there are there are no new first party games to play on it, right? You can there's
Crazy.
third party games that you can play, Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, and some other stuff, right? But no first party and Microsoft stuff that's new, which is insane for a console launch. But the nice thing is though is that most of their first party games that have come out in the last couple of years all have Series X updates to them, which make them basically, you know, Series X games take full advantage of everything there. So Sea of Thieves has gotten it, Gears 5 has gotten it, Ori and the Will of the Wisps has gotten one, Grounded, a bunch of the other first party games. Um, I played probably like 2 hours probably of Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and if you have a 120 hertz TV, it will run at native 4K at 120 frames per second. Um, if you don't have a 120 hertz TV, it tells you, goes, oh, you can't do 120 hertz, but we're going to run the game at 6K at 60 frames a second and downsample it to 4K. So, which is just insane because the game looks insanely good at 6K 60.
I mean,
Um,
Ori and the Will of Wisp looked insanely good on my 60 hertz OLED. Like it
mhm,
is a beautiful looking game. I think no matter what type of monitor that you're playing it on.
yeah,
So I have to download it. When I get one of these, I have to download it and take a look at it and be like, show me.
yeah.
Show me all the Ks.
And it runs flawlessly, which is nice because it didn't run great.
No, it
Even
did
on
not run.
PC, it didn't run great when it first launched.
A
So,
terrific game.
um, and I've been having a lot of fun going back to it. It's a game I want to finish. So, just I was wrong. I was not. I was like, oh, I'm only 9% through it. I wasn't ever through. I was like 9% through, like whatever like part of the map I was on or
Oh,
whatever
okay.
at the time. I'm probably like I'm probably like 25, 30% through it. I looked where I was
I like that game
in
a lot.
comparison. Um, so I launched that. What else? I launched Sea of Thieves. And obviously, if you play on PC, it's not going to be like, oh my god, this looks like unbelievable, But for the console version, it doubles the frame rate and it runs way smoother than it did on console before. So that looks great. Gears 5 looks great. Gears Tactics, which you haven't been able to play, that's the one thing that hasn't been console available before that you can play on the Series X. So Gears Tactics is there, and I booted up and I didn't play very much of it at all, but it runs really nicely, and that's where I'll probably end up playing that game. So that was cool. Um, and then I launched. Andy mentioned needing to find room for PUBG on the PS5. I launched it on the old Xbox Series X, and it runs buttery smooth for PUBG on a console. It ran at 60 frames a second, like it loaded in like that, and it was funny because I was playing. I loaded into one match I wanted to play the new map. They put out a new map. Um, so I'll play the new map, and you can only play the new map in squads. So it loaded me into a squad, and I wasn't in a party, obviously. So like, fucking voice chat just starts flooding into my ears, right? And I can hear the people who obviously aren't on like next generation consoles because they're like, "Oh man, I can't even see the ground yet. Where's the ground? What build? I can't see the buildings yet. What the fuck is this?" And I'm like, "I can see everything. Nothing's popping in. Everything's running smoothly." And
Hey,
then
that's
I, I landed, picked up a gun, and then my teammate ran over to me and killed me. So that was
excellent.
fun.
Excellent.
I
Well,
reported him,
PUBG remains a great video game.
but it ran very, very smoothly. Um, it's also like quick resume is very cool. Quick resume is something that I thought at some point Mark Cerny had said that multiple games were going to be able to be in rest mode on the PS5. Did I make this up?
No, I honestly thought like, okay, if Microsoft's doing that, Sony must be doing it as well. And no, they're not, and it's super annoying. I hate it.
Yeah. Quick resume is nuts because they're still working on it or whatever, but uh uh you literally, I think, up to depending on the games, you can have like 6 games like in suspended save state that you can literally like click on and it will just launch it back up immediately. Um And the thing is too is like the Series X is blindingly fast. Like super every part of it is just crazy fast. Which is very, very cool. And it plays 360 games very well, Justin,
I bet it does. I mean,
including Battlefield 3.
oh man, I wish I could have got in there.
Um, it was so funny because EA Play is now part of
Game Pass.
Game Pass, which is great. It's really great. And so they've got a ton of EA games on there. Like every Battlefield game from 1943, like the one that Xbox Live like arcade game they put out back in the day, all the way up through Battlefield 5 are on there.
They don't have 2142? Was it
1942
21? No, no,
wasn't
no, no, no,
a
not 1942. The future one. Andy, help me. What was the name of the future?
2042.
What was it?
2042.
2042?
2042. But that wasn't on console, I don't believe.
Was 2142, Grun says.
A
No, that was
2142.
on that was on console. I played it. I played it
It
on
was?
360. Yeah.
I do not remember that.
Hang on.
Um,
Searching here. It was on console, Grun
it was
says.
on console? It was on 360 or was it on Xbox,
No,
the
it was
original
on
Xbox?
It was on 360 because I played
Oh,
it there.
okay. Interesting. Maybe they do and I just didn't maybe
Yep.
maybe I just missed it. But um
Yep, it was on console.
okay.
But yeah, go ahead, continue. I didn't mean to derail you.
Yeah, no, so I jumped into a match during the day when one day like the Wednesday, so the day after I got the console, because Justin was like, "Oh, I want to play this," because Justin loves Battlefield 3. And I jumped in and I jumped into Justin's favorite map, and I got into a match that was like full of people, and I played a match. I was like, "Cool, this works tonight. We can get to play it." And then we're waiting for Justin to get on, and Andy and I are on. And Andy's on his Xbox One X, and I'm on the Series X, and we get to a party together. First of all, when we got into like the 360 game, we had to become friends because on the 360 Xbox Live, because it's like a different infrastructure. But then we jumped in, and literally nobody was playing Battlefield 3 multiplayer on anything at all. Every server was empty. Which
I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna go back in and check that game in like a week, and like hopefully it's populated more because I think EA Play just joined Game Pass, so people might not realize one of the greatest games of all time is sitting there waiting to be played.
I wonder how Battlefield 4 would run on the Series X.
Battlefield 4 ran like shit. It was
I know, and it
released.
like crashed like when that building would explode, it would like
It's
crash
so bad.
everybody's systems and
Battlefield
stuff.
4 was the only game I have ever had a problem with the campaign. I lost my save in the campaign 4 different times. I finally beat the campaign trying to get the platinum in one sitting. At that point, I knew the ins and outs of the first like 4 levels that I speed ran through it. But yeah, I
Mark
lost it
called you
multiple times.
Justin Derulo. Justin Derulo voice. So yeah, so that Series X has been mostly like it. I think Series X potential is much more theoretical at this point, right, than the PS5's is. I think when it comes down to it, PS5 ends up having like a couple, not counting the third party stuff, because you can play Valhalla and Watch Dogs on whatever console you want, right? It's not like that's whatever console you have. But the PS5 at launch, at least, it has Miles Morales, which is on both. It's cross gen, but it has Miles Morales for you to play. It's got Astro, Playroom to play, which is a pack-in, which is great. It's got Demon Souls, which that is just a purely exclusive PS5 game. Bugsnax, it's got games for you to play on it that you can't play on other consoles. And the Xbox Series X just doesn't have that.
So
right now,
for anybody that doesn't know this, Bugsnax is the free game on Plus this month. If you don't have a PS5, you could add it to your PS5 library just by going on to like Sony's app or anything.
You can play it on PS4 too.
Can you play it on PS4? I don't think it's free on PS4 though.
It is. No, it is.
I'm
pretty sure it is. I think so.
I thought it was a PS5 Plus title.
I think if you add it to your library on PS5, Like with the app, I think you can download it on PS4.
Okay.
I think. I could be wrong, but I think
I've
so.
I haven't played it yet. Nope. Cody says no, it's
Oh,
PS5
PS5
only.
only.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, but you can add it to your library so in that way when you
Yeah.
have the console, it's going to be you'll have it. Anyway, uh I have yet to play Bug Snacks, and I honestly I was not probably going to really give it a look, but every person I have talked to or listened to on a podcast or I've gone on to Reset Era, and the number one thread today on Reset Era was the ending of Bug Snacks. What the fuck? Apparently the ending of that game is something. And
Hmm.
so I really want to see what everyone is talking about. So I don't think it's very long. I think it's like 8 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'll try Bug Snacks because I really want to see what the hell everyone's talking about. I
Yeah.
mean, Dave says, I only played a bit, but my wife is horrified by Bug Snacks. It's a horrifying thing.
So yeah, I mean, overall, oh, and I think in our Discord, I think was it Groon who asked which controller we liked better? Yes. Which next gen controller feels better? And I mean, it's tough. It's tough to compare them in a lot of ways because the Xbox Series X, Series S controller is basically an Xbox One controller. It doesn't. It's not really much different. It's slightly smaller, like which I think gives it a it sits a little bit better in your hands, I think. Um, it's got grippies, like the grippies on the actual triggers. So
That's
it's got like
nice.
those little, which is nice. But the controller feels great. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel with it. It's just a slightly better Xbox One controller. I like the D-pad better too. A little more clicky. I like the D-pad better on it. Um, Whereas the PS5 controller is like it's almost like not quite here, but it's almost like Nintendo level of like, look at this shit we made, and we're like the only ones who really gonna take advantage of it. But isn't it cool? Like it has like that sort of vibe to it, which is neat. Like I'm really happy they did it, and it feels great in the hand. The vibration is good. It's got a heft to it, which is really nice.
Yeah, it
It's
doesn't
got
it
almost
does
like sorry, go ahead.
not that the Dual Shocks ever felt like cheap, but it you know you could throw it on the ground and it feel like it would break in half. And this it really feels different. Like
Yeah.
I am a I'm a believer.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. It has like that Switch Pro controller sort of weight to it, which I think is really nice. Um,
Chonky,
Mark
as Mark says.
Mark Chunky, me liking a thick boy is what Mark said originally. Hashtag thick boy nation. Um, so that's really cool about it. I will say like I know it'll never happen, but I really wish Sony would just put the sticks the other way, like the Xbox way. Because I just prefer the sort of like separated sticks a lot more. So like one up a little higher, one down a little lower vibe that the Xbox controllers have always had. I've always just preferred that over both sticks at the bottom of the controller. But other than that, I think they're both great controllers, and I think that you can't go wrong with either one of them. The PS5 controller is just more special. It just does more interesting stuff. Um, I really want to see with like adaptive triggers if they can implement like a software version of like the trigger stops, on like more advanced controllers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like be able to like say in like the options of like Call of Duty, like, no, I want the trigger stop like sensitivity. So it doesn't you don't have to pull it down as far. That
that
kind of
would
thing.
be so nice.
Yeah.
Because I would have definitely killed a couple more people last night in Cold War if I didn't have to do a full press of that controller.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too, like I didn't get a chance to dig through the settings. I'm wondering if there is like trigger like options in the settings. I didn't get a chance to really dig through and look yet. Um yeah, so but if you like the Xbox controller and you're going to get a Series X at some point or you're looking for a controller to get for your PC, the Series X controller is great. I think it's a great Xbox controller. But again, it's not reinventing the wheel like at all. So that's the next gen stuff. I think like we'll have more to talk about in the coming weeks as we play more stuff and more stuff comes out. And we kind of put the consoles through their paces. I think is really what it's going to be. We still haven't like for Warzone, which is a game we play quite a bit, and for Apex Legends, which is a game we play quite a bit. There's still no like full on PS5 versions of those games. So we don't know how those type of games are going to feel and look when they get like their bump ups and stuff like that. So
Excited though.
yeah, me too. It's nice too, like stuff like the HDR is nice because it's in everything now. It's not like something that pops up when you open specific games. Um, you have to set your HDR settings once when you set the console up, not like randomly when I used to play Call of Duty on PS4 Pro, it would just be like, "Hey, you want to do this HDR settings again?" And it'll give me that menu, and
Yeah.
I just I just was like, why are you making me do this again? Why don't you remember my settings or whatever? So um I'm like that. Cody said there is what
He
trigger
said
settings in Call of Duty.
that'd be cool. I have not thought. I mean, I just launched Cold War for the first time last night, so I didn't dig into the menus.
Yeah, we went right from a yes, there is. Okay,
Yes,
cool, that's
yes.
interesting. Okay,
Good to know.
it's good to know because I do feel like the trigger press was a little bit too much, I guess, in Cold War.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I had to like it's the opposite of what I want
Yeah, you had to press it
in
a
a shooter
little
like
bit
that.
more hard,
Yeah,
a little more
make me a little
force.
slower than I already am. That's what I'm
Yeah.
really looking for. Make me slower, pops. So yeah. So other than that, is there any games you've been playing, Justin, that you wanted to go over quickly?
Um. Yeah. I'm gonna do this very fast because we're running at the end of our clock here. I tore through a bunch of games. Played more Final Fantasy VII. Decided Final Fantasy VII is not for me right now. I was just in the last couple of weeks just in a really weird funk with games. Like
Yeah.
started and stopped that, started and stopped Ghost of Tsushima, started and I barely even started Watch Dogs.
Hmm.
Just because I was looking forward to these games so much and like I was like, I don't want to blow through anything. So I just put anything on my PS4 on the back burner and just kind of with thought I'll get back to this later. I did play I Am Dead on Steam, which is a game that I was thinking was from the way I looked at it. I was looking for something just very kind of lighthearted, kind of like in that
Hmm.
Donut County vibe. And I saw the art for this. Like you're dead, you have your dead dog as your companion, and you have to stop this island's volcano from destroying the island. And now that you're
You
dead, you have
thought
the
this
ability
looks
to do
fun and
this.
silly and
This
lighthearted,
looks
like Donut
very
County.
lighthearted, so funny. But it's very neat. It's kind of like a puzzly thing with the, interesting, you're going in and out of these characters and like jumping in and out of memories and to like
Hmm.
not really doing a lot gameplay wise, but like what's happening is like you jump into somebody's memory and like the memory is all fuzzy and then you're holding the right or left trigger to like kind of like turn the memory around in a circle until it like kind of like comes into form and then like a story will play. But they all talk so slow and you're looking for clues on things. And it's neat, it's charming, but it was just a little bit too slow paced. I don't think it's very long. I'm probably like a third through the game and I only put like an hour and a half into it. I'll probably end up finishing it, but just like wasn't exactly what I was looking for. And that's really what I put time into other than like battle royales and stuff. Like a couple other things
Hmm.
I checked out, but not enough to like form a concrete opinion on just yet.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, well, I got my first clear in Hades. That was like
Yeah.
right before I left to go on vacation. And I haven't like really touched it since because I went on vacation and then got back and it was just new console palooza as soon as I walked in the door. So
I
um
go ahead.
I haven't had time to really go back. I cleared it with the gun. Uh and I had a really good loadout specifically for like Hades because his whole second phase he like stops moving for a while and just stands in one place. And I had a cast that was just like at a cast obviously the special with the gun is like that bomb.
Yeah.
So I had like the 3 bomb thing, um, and a cast that was like a triple cast that was like the drunken whatever thing. So I was like, or no, it was like the weak thing. So I was like, I was throwing the weak out and then just dropping 3 bombs on him and like dodging around. And was just he was chunking down real fast. That felt good. I finally beat it. I gotta like just get not get just get back into it, sit down and just play more of it. It's just tough to pull myself away from the other consoles right now. You
I
have something you want to say about Hades?
yeah, I since we last podcasted, I finished the 10 runs to like get
Okay.
credits on the game,
Hmm.
and I've decided I'm stopping there. It can keep going, but I'm 100% going to play this on my TV when it comes
Right.
out for PS5 or whatever. So I've decided I'm gonna 100% that game then, and I'll have more to say about Hades at the end of the year.
Okay. And then other than that, haven't really done too much. Oh, I played a little bit last night of that new Harmonix game in quotes, Fuser. Um, and Justin, I know you wanted me to explain the game to you, so why don't you ask me some questions?
What is Fuser?
So Fuser is a rhythm game from Harmonix, people who made might know the little game called Rock Band or Dance Central. Or the more pertinent game to this game would probably be a card game they released a few years ago called Drop Mix. Do you remember that game, Justin?
Yeah.
So, um, the premise of Fuser is you're a DJ and you are playing like these sets or whatever, and on the screen you've got like a console in front of you that has four like record spots for records on it, basically four slots.
Okay.
um and every track, and you have like a basically what they call like a case of records, basically. You're like a digital case of records that has like a bunch of songs. So I think you can have like 20, think it's like somewhere around 20, maybe it's more than that. 20 songs like in your case that you bring onto a gig or whatever. And um when you start out, you just got kind of like crowd noise, something going on, and then for each of the four slots, each slot is a different part of a song. So there's like the drum and bass part, like the rhythm, the beat of the song, is one record. Then there's like the like main instrumental, the main instrument part of it, and then there's the secondary instrument part, which secondary instrument could be backup guitar, keyboard, it could be backing vocals, and then you've got the main vocals record. And you can literally, I can go like, so let me give you an exact example. Okay, I've got "Never Gonna Give You Up" by Rick Astley, right? I can take the, let's say, like beat, like the drum and bass beat of "Never Gonna Give You Up" and put it on my first record slot. So it starts playing like the rhythm of "Never Gonna Give You Up." And then I'm like, okay, now I've got the guitar part from Hot Stuff by Donna Summer, and then I've got the backing vocals from Happy by Pharrell, and as my secondary instrument, and then on the main vocals I've got Bad Guy by Billie Eilish, right? And the game will beat match and pitch match like the four different parts, and play this new like mix you've got of the song. And when you're in sort of like the campaign like story mode mission, not the freestyle mode, it basically is giving you instructions like, okay, you need to drop on this one you can only do pop records. And it's gonna give and it pops on the side like, okay, like drop a like change up the vocals, change up the guitar part, change up the beat or whatever. And you want to change them up on like the downbeat of the songs, and it gives you like a meter at the top where it's like, okay, on the song you see like basically a little line going across where it measures like on the timing of the song, and you want to hit the change like on the downbeat of the song, so when it changes it sounds right. It sounds like, you're coming in right when the vocals start or right when the next guitar part starts, and it's not like crossing over the two things. I mean, you do stuff like that, the crowd gets more interested, you get more points. And if you keep changing and progressing the mix, you also get more points and more crowd engagement. Uh, you can make what I would call absolute nightmares of of songs, which just don't go together at all. But you can make some like very cool mixes. Um, Justin, do you remember the the artist Girl Talk?
Yes, very well. It's
It's
this game yeah, it's what I
sort
was
of like
thinking
that.
of, yeah, this whole
Yeah,
time. That sounds
yeah,
awesome. How much does this
yeah.
cost?
It's a full price video game, Justin.
And you got it on Steam?
No, I got it on PS5 actually.
It's on PS5?
Yeah, I mean it's on PS. It's not a PS5 version of the game. It's a PS4 version of the game,
I have
but
to
I
I
got
might
it
have
on
to
PS5.
I might have to try this.
It also has. I guess you can play multiplayer because it has like cross. It asked you like, do you want to enable crossplay? And I was like, okay.
So the thing is, this would be a really cool game to stream to show people, except
Except yes, it would destroy our channel immediately. we would
immediately.
get we would get taken down immediately.
Yeah.
Um, so I may like record like a video of it and put it on YouTube because YouTube, you'll get like, hey, this is copyright music, but they're like, you just can't make money off of it, which is totally fine. But I would like to do
Or
a video
not.
of it because it's fun and it would be a fun thing to like explain and play. I think Peaches sounds really interesting. It is really interesting. I don't know how well it's gonna do. I don't know what how people are feeling about rhythm games, but like um I brought like different people from my family in. Like I was like, hey, look at this thing. And they were all like, that is really cool. And my son went nuts for it. He was like dancing around and like telling me to pick like the songs that he knew. He was like, Daddy, do Can't Stop the Feeling. And then I'd mix Can't Stop the Feeling with like Happy and all this kind of stuff. And he would like get like super into it. That was a lot of fun. But and it feels good. Like you can like when you're playing in the freestyle mode, that you can just do whatever you want the whole time. And that one has a tool in it where you can hit like okay like okay smartly match up all the pitch and the beat, and it will do like a drop. It will like slow everything down, and then the music will go away for a second, and then it will like drop it back in all like the right timing,
That's really
and
cool.
it just feels really cool.
I
And
mean,
you can queue up the next parts of songs. So you go like, okay, like right now I have the vocals for Bad Guy, but I want like Rick Astley Never Gonna Give You Up like to come in like on the drop. So you cue it up and then you just like hit the button and it like on the beat and it switches everything and all of a sudden it's doing the next thing. It's really cool. So your Anna Kendrick's character, Becca from Pitch Perfect. I'm already more attracted to you. Yes, Mark. I am just like Anna Kendrick's character from Pitch Perfect.
love Anna Kendrick. I love Girl Talk, so this sounds so much like Girl Talk. I'm going to enjoy this. I have to show this to Laz because Laz is the one that told me about Girl Talk.
Oh yeah. I gotta show to Jackie and Jay because they're the ones who told me about Girl Talk. um, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. And like it, I think that it's much more of a fun music tool than it is a game. There is a game part, like I said, there's a progression to it. You can do it, and you do unlock. You get like digital current. You get like in-game currency, and there's like songs to unlock in it. Um, so there is a reason to play through the progression and get those things. And they also have a DLC store like already up. It works the same
Sound
way as Rock Band.
that sounds dangerous.
Yeah. I think right now you can buy the entire store for like $40 or something, and they have like a pack for that.
All right,
Um,
I'm gonna have to take a look at this.
yeah, you should. You should take a look at it. I put a clip on my Twitter the other day, and it was like my son was like directing the mix or whatever that I was putting together. But it was like a lot of fun. Um,
That sounds cool.
yeah, I'm gonna quickly I'm gonna share that link in our chat. We can see it really quick. And this was like very simple. I wasn't doing a lot of stuff with it. But I put it in chat. I have a blood grudge against Girl Talk and Super Mash Bros. Okay. Okay, Mark.
We'll, we'll have to talk
Um,
about that later, Mark.
yeah, and Crocker said I'm having flashbacks to seeing Girl Talk live in college. That sound like that would have been really cool. I never saw Girl Talk live, but the game is cool. So I got to put more time into it. I've only put like an hour into it or something. But it's very chill, very fun. And there was like all moments where I was like, I'm like messing around, like putting different things in there, and I'm like, sometimes you hit like those moments where you're like, this sounds really good. Like I don't know like what is about this combination, but it sounds really good. And you can, if you just up on the D-pad while you have like a something laid out, it takes a snapshot of the mix you have going at the moment, and you can load that back up whenever you want. So you can say like, okay, like give me back, the mix I had with all these like these four tracks that were working really well together. Just put them back together to be my starting point or whatever. So it's a cool game. I hope
Rad.
it's successful for them
Me too.
because a drop mix always sounded really cool to me, but I was like I didn't want to buy the whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um so that's it. That's all. That's what I've been playing, Justin.
Sounds great.
We didn't talk about the new season of Apex, which just seems it's just very cool so far.
Yeah, we'll get more
The new
probably
map
into that.
is very neat.
Probably talk more
Um,
about that next time we get together.
yeah, I mean we're gonna be playing a bunch of it on Sunday during our extra
Sunday.
live stream.
That's right.
Which, if things continue the way they're going, Justin will be streaming. If my internet keeps going the way it's going. So
That's fine. I can stream it out and everyone can see me panic when we're like, let's switch to PC stuff. And I literally light myself on fire because I don't want to deal with having to switch scenes.
hmm,
But yeah,
we'll get it all together. If it ends up being that way, Justin, we'll get it all together before, so it's nice and easy for you to switch.
yeah. But yeah, we'll be streaming this Sunday from
Hmm
9 o'clock Eastern until about 5 o'clock. I almost said Pacific. 5 o'clock Eastern.
What a weird decision.
I was gonna say PM and the word Pacific was coming out of my mouth, and I'm like, no, stop.
9
Yeah,
a.m. Eastern to not to 5 p.m. Eastern.
Eastern. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put a full day of work in, and we're gonna be raising money for Extra Life. So
hmm
we hope that you will come and donate for a good cause, and we'll be spreading the word about that on our Twitter all week. And yeah, please come and hang out with us. We're gonna be playing a bunch of different games. We're gonna be playing some Apex. We're gonna be playing some Phasmophobia.
Yeah.
Where that's
That'll be
or
fun.
that'll be something. And then we got
Uh,
a couple other games that we're gonna be throwing in there. Probably some that we probably won't stay with for a very long time, but like I would very much like to play more Spelunky with Bobby, so I could get him in the
mhm,
back with a shotgun again.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
And we'll see what else. We're gonna try and play a couple of games of Among Us as well.
Yes.
So if you'd like to come hang out and play Among Us with us, just let us know in the Discord. Join
Yeah,
our Discord. Link is gonna post it right now.
I got it.
But yeah,
I did that.
please look forward to that.
Yes. And I Justin, I talked to Cody and Mark, and they're game to play something with us that day. We can just get a time
Fantastic.
together. So
Awesome.
maybe they'll play Among Us with us. Maybe some Deep Rock Galactic. We'll
I
see.
know that some people would like to join us for Phasmophobia.
I am open.
I've already been asked, is there room for us? So yeah, we'll
There
set
will
all
be.
that up.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I'm interested to see how you react to it, Justin.
You're not the first person to tell me that in the last week.
Well, because you don't like playing horror games,
No, I don't.
um, and I'm interested how scared you may become at moments, or if not scared at all. If you just get angry, I don't know what it's going to be. So that's why I'm interested to see what it's like.
We
But
shall
yeah,
see. We'll see on Sunday.
I will turn the jump scares back on, Mark.
Well, if it's on my end,
Doesn't matter.
then
It's through Streamlabs, so it doesn't
oh,
matter. You'll be
all
able to
right.
hear it though.
Fantastic. Forgot about the jump scares. Fuck.
Everybody get ready. I'll make sure Justin is monitoring the alerts so he can hear them. Don't worry about it. It will be fine. It will be fine. Um, but yeah, that's gonna do it for our podcast for this week. Make sure you follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/misadventureland. If you're listening to this, in podcast form and audio form on your favorite podcasting service and you want to watch us live, we try to be every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. We do the podcast live. This week is the game show. Next week we'll be back to our panels and pictures, our comic book and comic book related show. Which reminds me, I have to finish reading those Hickman X-Men books for that. And I think we're
Ew.
going to. Last time we ranked the MCU. I think this time we're going to rank the non-MCU Marvel movies that have come out since Blade. So that should be very interesting to do.
That's gonna be a
I've got a
discussion.
couple to catch up on before we record,
I
so
have one to watch.
I'll be watching 2 bad movies and 1 good one. So when we do that, so we'll see about that. Um, and yeah, and then follow me on Twitter at Bobby Shortle. Follow Justin at Justin_says_hey on Twitter. Um, not at Parkley76 like it says if you're watching the stream
You're not
right
watching the
now.
stream. Sorry, we're using an old scene. We had to do this very
Yeah.
quickly.
Yes. Yes, the family classic Deadpool 2. Mark. That's a funny story which I will tell. I'll tell that story next week on the actual comic book show. The story of the Deadpool in my family. But that's going to do it for this show. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Bobby.
And thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening. Until next time, be good to one another. Later.